Hi, I'm Janisa Norris, and this is Define Design. Language is described as a system of communication utilized by a specific country or community. In the realm of technology and user experience, language serves as a means to engage users as they navigate a product. By grasping the nuances of users' language, we can enhance our communication and connect more effectively. The primary role of a content designer is to craft the text that appears on the screens. And language is consistently evolving, just like technology. For instance, while we might be accustomed to the term refrigerator, the more casual term fridge often comes into play. In our content design, we might choose fridge for a conversational tone. But what if our audience prefers icebox? In summary, words matter. And being mindful of these factors allows us to communicate more efficiently. To explore strategies for cataloging users' language, I consulted my colleague, Ashwarya B. She is a content designer at Zeta, as well as an author and public speaker. In this episode, she will discuss her innovative approach, which involves tailoring content to reflect cultural nuances and linguistic preferences. Join us for a discussion on the vital role of understanding user communication within the fintech industry. Aishwarya will share her insights on creating user friendly content for a diverse Indian audience, highlighting the importance of using familiar language to foster trust and enhance user engagement. Let's tune in. Hey, everybody, we are here today with Aishwarya, and we are discussing different ways to understand our users and how they comprehend the language that is on the UI in the product. So, hey, Aishwarya, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm a content designer and I'm into fintech and I write for the Indian audience. So, writing for such a wide demography is quite challenging because you're not just catering to people who are in like tier 1 cities, right? We also have people using all these applications for payments to get loans, or you have digital bank accounts now. Everything is like on the phone. You don't have to like step into the bank to do anything. So when you have wide range of audience who are using it through multiple cities and suburbs and even to some extent villages, it becomes very important for us to understand how our audience are, where they are, and how what is their lifestyle, how do they live, because when we write, all of this really matter to us. For us, like, it's very easy to make an assumption that, whatever we know, whatever words we are very familiar with, everyone will know that, but that's not a right way to look into it. I can give an example for it because
Okay.
we have done a lot of user testings, UTs, to initially understand how to build a vocabulary for the app that I currently work for, which is PayZapp. It's a payment gateway app where you can, use it for everything and anything related to money. You can
Okay.
pay, you can send money, you can receive money, you can get a credit card on the app, you can apply for a loan on the app. So anything and everything related to money, you can just do it like at the tip of your fingers. So while we were doing UTs, when we were initially working on the app, this was like 2.5 years ago when I just newly joined.
Mm-hmm.
We had to understand how do we build a proper word list and a a strategy for all the copies that we wrote on the app, because at that moment there were a lot of inconsistencies. And when we started doing UTs, we realized there are so many words that we conveniently thought our users will understand, and when we went out there and started asking, talking to them, we realized there are so many assumptions that we made very confidently, but they're all wrong. Like,
Mm.
couple of words like, a word like fund. Like fund is such a common word, add
Yeah.
funds, manage funds, get funds. So word like fund, word like insufficient balance, things like
Hmm.
those were very, very different when we started talking to them. Our users did not very much relate to the word called fund, insufficient balance amount, or initiate payments, things simpler words like those that we've been using in the banking terminology for very long
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, so I have a few questions if I can interject.
Yeah,
So
yes.
we have the UTs, which are user testing, and I'm curious about what happened that brought your attention to this, that maybe payments isn't working, or fund, as you said, the word funds. What's going on with that? Was there anything significant that brought your attention to that portion of the flow to focus on the content more so than the design itself?
Yeah, so when it came to doing the UTs, right, we had some screens where we were talking to the users about, how they made the payment, how they got the payment.
Hmm.
And because the people we talked to were all, who were in small businesses, many of them didn't have time to really go through what we had written. They just simply by the practice or by doing the same thing every day, they were just blind to a lot of words. So they were like, and some of them didn't figure out what that word meant. Some of them just started using it, and they eventually they were like, okay, the word fund means basically you're going to get money.
Hmm.
When we said instead of using the word fund, if we say add money to your wallet or send money instead of sending funds, will it make any difference? That's when they were like, yes, the word money is very, very familiar to us. If you start using words which are very local to all the local languages that we speak here in India, which is a lot, it's very easy for our audience to sort of associate themselves with it. Suddenly, when you said instead of money, can I say add paisa? Paisa basically means money in Hindi and in couple of other languages as well. If you add words like paisa, if you add words which are very local and colloquial to them, if you add certain words like that, will it make any difference? And they really were like, yes, that will make difference, because it's like it's like I'm talking to a friend or a customer, except it's on like a digital platform.
Hmm.
And when we started probing deeper, we sort of understood that, hey, certain language, certain words in our Indian terminologies really matter, because they're also used in everyday languages. Like, you don't use the word fund in your everyday English that we talk here. Instead, it's
Yeah.
always money. You don't say initiate payment anywhere. You just say pay somebody, pay now, you know,
Yeah.
start a payment or make a payment.
Hmm.
So all the simpler words that were more conversational, we understood that while like that is being added as a conversational tone, but when we started writing, it started becoming very formal. And that's when these UTs sort of gave us that understanding that all these simpler assumptions that we started making really mattered to the user, and some of them just didn't give any attention to it simply because they never understood it. When we started talking and figuring out that there was a gap in understanding, and that we had to answer it out, and the only answer is through content, that's when we realized that making all these smaller changes really added value. Like, the moment we started using the word money,
Hmm.
we realized a lot of that changed in the way the user was using the app. Suddenly, using some simpler words rather than all these banking terminologies, we figured out that, a lot of users started using the app more than what they were initially using. Now they really understood the flow that they were in. They could make payments with more confidence, because there were all words that they were very familiar with their everyday language, and they were like, okay, if this word has been used, and since I already know what this word means, which means this is a safe app to work on. So that started really reflecting on the kind of user trust that the app was getting in. So, all these simpler assumptions really went wrong. And I think when we started having similar conversations on multiple fronts, that's when we realized, hey, words matter, especially
Yeah.
when you talk in the user's context, in their and related to their everyday work, and understand their pain. Suddenly the big picture is becoming very, very clear. that also helped us to figure out where we went wrong. All these smaller things sort of had a bigger impact, which we never realized.
Hmm.
And all these grassroots problems, once we started solving them, that's when we understood it's significantly improving our the performance on the app improved, the transactions on the app significantly improved, and we
Yeah.
started getting more and more users.
Okay, that sounds amazing. I know I've had a manager who her mantra was words matter. That's immediately what I was thinking when you were breaking down how when you would communicate with the users and they would explain, this is just not how we communicate. That is very important. And you're right. When we speak just in casual conversation, we're not saying payment. Even if we were to go and get money from the bank, we say it like that. We don't say, I'm going to make a withdrawal. So the language is different. And I love that by having these user testing sessions, you're able to really be curious about how does this user see this? What is it about our product that makes them reject it in a sense or not feel as though they can trust it as much? And it sounds like what I think across the board users want. They want to be able to trust the product and they want to feel like this is a conversation that we're having and I understand what you're saying to me. So I want to move a little bit more into like getting that feedback and some of the potential solutions that you guys were able to come up with after understanding these are the following words that do not really work well with our users. So let's shift. And then another question, sidebar question, just out of curiosity, knowing that India is so huge and there are so many different languages within India. Like, how are you guys able to discover this term works the best for all of our users versus this term is more specific to a certain portion? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely India is a big country with multiple languages, and our Indian English is also very different from the English that is spoken in the other parts of the world.
Mhm.
So, initially, when we were researching on what kind of taxonomy that we need to bring in after we did the UTs, like, yeah, there was a comparison between the commonly used words that we borrowed from the other vocabulary, other languages, and the words that are very, very Indian. Like for example, making a payment is like the word payment is a very commonly used. We don't say transaction. We
Mhm.
are more comfortable with the word payment. We are more comfortable with the word money. Like if I can think out of, I mean, like out of,
Mhm.
like if you like, we have like very Indianized words that you don't find in any other vocabulary. Like, for example, eggplant. We don't use the word eggplant. We have a word called brinjal, which doesn't exist in any other, any other English in, away from India.
Yeah.
Like it's either eggplant or aubergine. But for us,
Mhm.
people don't know if you come to India and tell them you need an aubergine, nobody will know what aubergine is. If you have to tell them I need a brinjal, and then they'll give you the vegetable. So we have lots of
Wow.
words like that where we sort of either they're very localized based on our conversations where we have direct translation to our native languages, or they are like, I don't know, borrowed words that became Indianized over a period of time. So when we started working on the taxonomy research, we had to take in a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of effort in understanding what are the keywords that we are very, very commonly using, which is very contextual to our audience, which is very contextual to how we have conversations every day, our very colloquial word list, and also, yeah, in those aspects, it was a very, very challenging activity, I would say. We actually had, like, I remember we made a document which said words that we borrowed from English dictionary, words that we borrowed from UK Cambridge dictionary, words that are very, very Indian, which is the one that we use. Sometimes there's also difference in spellings, right? And we also considered how much of our writing is very influenced. Like for example, program, we spell it program, but there is program gramme. We don't use that additional m and additional e. So we
Mhm.
had to consider all of that as well, because if you write the word program with mme, our Indian audience, many of them may not relate to it. But if you write program, that's more relatable. So
Mm-hmm.
we had to, like, shortlist all of those words where we don't use that extra alphabets here and there, or we have exclusive words that we have for very Indian audience. Like, you don't use words like comprehensive, you don't use words like, health coverage and all. We are very familiar with word insurance. So even if you say health cover, our audience will not know what it is. But if you say health insurance, they're more related to it, because the word insurance is very, very familiar. You have insurance for everything, right? That word keeps repeating again and again. So it's also about how repetitive that words are, how familiar our users are. And based on that, we had to work on a word library and get in a taxonomy. So that's like an ever going. I think we still have lots of words that we're still adding on to our library, and it's like a very, very dynamic project that's
Hold on.
not going to end anytime sooner. I mean, it's like an ever ending bucket list, because we keep adding words every now and then based on our UTs. Sometimes it so happens that initially the words that we had figured out that would work were not working at a later stage. Like, we had CTS that said learn more when new features were released, or we had something that we want the users to know. We did some upgrade that we want them to understand and all, because and then when we realized that there's nothing for the user to learn on the app. The user is coming to explore. They want to know what is happening. So words like learning, understanding, we're not working in those instances. So instead of that, we started using words like know. The know more was more relatable, more contextual, because we want the users to know what is happening, and we have that much understanding that our users will eventually figure out what they need to do, because they've been using so many applications that talk about similar flows, that talk about similar experience. So in a way, they at least know where to start, how to start. Maybe after one point, they might explore something newer. They might want to know what is there, which is different from the other application. So hence, it's a learning curve for them. There's nothing like a major knowledge sharing sort of a thing, right? So we just wanted to make that exploration part more clear. So we didn't want them to learn anything. We want them to know. We want to give them that liberty to sort of
Mm-hmm.
go explore it, instead of hand holding them to get the process done end to
Yeah.
end. So words like that were replaced. And then we understood that, if we started using words like that, then we are giving more power to the user. And that also sort of helped us to that was also one of a very surprising win, because when we had to change certain words in those ways, where we were giving where we were projecting that the user had the control rather than us, that also sort of helped us to understand how the user's behavior were. Suddenly we had lots of clicks on that particular learning page, because they were more curious about it. And using words like oops, sorry, and all really felt
Mm-hmm.
uh, very, very unrelated. Instead
Okay.
of that, directly telling them what went wrong, or directly giving them a solution upfront, those sort of influence their behavior also. And they that also helped us to understand that there are certain ways where the users expect the communication to be given on the app. In few instances, it happens that they already know what went wrong and they just want a way out. And
Mm.
there, if you give a crystal clear content saying that this is what happened and this is how you have to do, they'll finish it and move on, and then they'll come back again, because they know that, hey, if I go wrong, there is a clear indication of what I need to do. Sort of so trying to figure out what sort of words, phrases that we had to use also really mattered. And that was also through all the UTs that we did. We talked to people on the floor. We talked to people, we talked to real users who were using the app for a very, very long time, to understand what would they want, how would they want the communication to be. And then we sort of started building a framework around it, building a guideline around it, building our taxonomy, started working on the library, and we ensured that there was a consistency. All of that incrementally, sort of helped us understand how our users behave, what do they understand about the app, how do they position the app in their everyday use. And We didn't manage to be one of the top 5 apps that people use on daily basis, which is actually a huge win for us.
Yes,
So
that is a huge
all of
one.
this really helped us to,
Yeah.
sort of get into that position.
Okay. I want to call out some of the really cool things that she said. I love that you called out, such as the learn more and understanding that users aren't really communicating with that in the ways that it's intended to be. And knowing that the comprehension of it is okay, well, I don't want to learn anything, I'm trying to do something. I think that's really key to knowing how your users can communicate with the product because there are so many different offerings along a user's flow that can take them off. Like, even if you're just going to sign up, you can get caught up in a learn more article that will take you down a rabbit hole of all
Mm.
other things, and then you're outside of the flow. Whereas this seems more of a direct communication per your user's requests, which is huge. And it seems like it's paying off considering that you guys are like one of the top five being used like on a daily basis, which is really, really big. Well, I also wanted to ask about so when cataloging all of this information and knowing like, okay, we're doing these tests, we're keeping all of these things updated. Are there ever spaces where you feel as though there's a term that we may have to introduce, such as trying to think of a financial term, insufficient funds? Like, do you navigate how to address like those things? I know you mentioned earlier with not wanting to, with users just again being direct and they're like, okay, they know something's wrong, that's why they're here. So instead of saying oops or sorry, which I've had that same experience in product spaces on my in my own journey, like we can't say that, just be direct with the user. Wrong username, try again, like just say exactly what it
Mm.
is and how they need to do it again and get it done correctly. So I'm curious as to how you were able to approach that in the fintech space.
So yeah, so some of them were like unavoidable jargons. We had to
Yeah.
use it. Like for example, words like UPI pin. That is basically that's a scan and pay payment. Words like scan and pay. They are all like I can say that they are like jargons because
Hmm.
even though people really don't know what exactly it means, pin is basically your personal identification number, right? You get
Yeah.
like you have like it's a alphanumeric or a numeric depending upon where you are, which bank you are, and basically which region you are and all. So those are unavoidable jargons, and I think people have been using this term for so long that in some places we had to just give a minimum education to the user about it, and I think that really worked because there is some level of awareness about what that is, how that is used. In those instances we just had a basic introduction or basic education where we told them what that specific thing is, and then we kept popping those names to make it familiar with them. Like we had contactless payments, and the word is NFC. So initially we had an animation where we used that word NFC multiple times throughout the journey to tell them what NFC is. We also told them what NFC means. There was a small tutorial of a
Hmm.
person tapping their card on a machine, the POS machine, and then make the payment getting completed without them entering their pin or any code or anything like that. So words like POS machine, words like NFC were multiple repeated in multiple places, and that is like one way for us to give them an understanding of what those words are, because that approach meant that we would be using those words multiple times. So we made sure that we established it n number of times for them to get familiarized with the word, and then eventually we started reducing that education to minimal, and then finally to zero. So by that time it was pretty clear that that whoever came across that word knew what that word meant, at least if not the exact meaning, but at least what it meant, like in that context. Like if we had the word POS machine, then it's quite well established that it's going to be like a contactless payment. So we didn't have to again tell them POS machine means you have to put your card and it's a contactless payment. So those are unavoidable jargons, and we had to use them because those words needed to be used. It's based as per the regulations by the all the governing communities and by the banks that we work in. So in like instances in those ways, education We made sure that we had enough education about it. We ran campaigns to give them familiarization of those words, those terms. We added them in our feature list. Published like internally, we published those guidelines where we told them like how we need to use this word,
Awesome.
how what is the usage, how do you need to use it, how do you frame sentences around it. If you have to use the content in your visual, right? How do
Hmm.
you make it evident? How is it contextual to the visuals that you are looking having to share it to the audience? And also, yeah, that way we made sure that we give enough awareness about all those words.
Okay, I think that's very impactful because payments are is something that is changing. Like you can do cash now, you can tap to pay as you mentioned, you can send money virtually in like so many different ways. It's just like some of these terms we have to use what it's called. And I think that's really cool that you guys are introducing it to them and just kind of massaging it into the flow as the user goes through it, so that they're aware of what it means and not intimidated by it. I think that's also a good way to build user trust as well, because they can see that something new is coming, but I'm not confused about it or feeling overwhelmed by it. I understand exactly what it is and how I can interact with this if I choose to do so. So I think that's super cool. So I want to dive into when you were at the point of sharing this word library with your partners. Okay, did you have an idea of what your feedback would be like? And was that the experience or was it absolutely different?
Okay, first of all, that the word library is still work in progress. So when I built I mean, it's still building. It's basically an Excel sheet at the moment. I want to automate it, and hopefully automate it soon. So when I first came up with this, it was based. I was doing a flow review for one of our flows where uh, same word repeated thrice, but in different contexts.
Okay.
Like it was a payment flow. In one, it said make a payment. In one, it said pay. In one, it said pay now. But ideally, the user had to make a payment in that flow. So there was lots of inconsistencies around, and there were multiple comments around that saying that why are we using different words as our CTA when it's clearly indicated that the action is for the user to make a payment. So that was one of the starting points, because even when I had reviewed, I had also shared a similar feedback, and when my senior reviewed, they also shared the similar feedback. That's when I decided I'll start building a word library where we'll set up rules that these will be, if these are the flows that the users are in, then these are the kind of words that we need to use. You cannot use multiple words in the same screen. That is going to confuse the user, and they really don't know what to look into, where to look into, especially when you have clearly established what the task the user needs to do on that. So now, when I first started working on it, it was quite an extensive word list where I wrote down all the words from the existing screens for one particular module, and then I wrote what are the recommended words, option one, option two, and then I wrote why these words needed to be used, why would they work better. We did a UT, a small UT, and we understood, these words work. Option A worked better than option B, or option B worked better than option A. Pilots were like small pilots within the floor. We just wrote it in two different screens, and we just shared it across with the folks who were working on the screen to understand which worked better. And my manager was quite surprised to see such an extensive list. He didn't realize that so many words were going wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he was like, "Oh, that's a very good start." And he was like, "Oh my God, are you sure that these are all the words that we've not been using properly?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, see, these are the words. This is the existing list. This is like a recommended list, and look at the inconsistencies." And I had even shared screenshots saying, see, this word is different here, this word is different here, while the intent is the same, while the meaning is the same. And even when we were writing copies, words like the hierarchy of the way we had to convey the information was very confusing. First, in couple of screens, it was like direct, like you. read it, you understand it. In couple of screens, it
Mhm.
felt like beating around the bush. You're telling so many things before you actually tell the user what they have to do. And these screens were like one or two screens next to each other, like, you do this, then there's one transition screen, and then the third screen. But ideally we want to reinforce the same information that we did in the first, but the communication was completely different. So we had to put in all those we had I had to really analyze, mark all those on the screens and tell them this is working, this is not working. That's why we need to build a list. And when we started working on when I started working on it, then it was like an exhaustive list, and I had to divide it into multiple things. Like if I had to write for a happy case scenario, how should it be? Then there was a tone attached to it. If it was a critical scenario, how should it be? And then there was a tone attached to it. And there were also words that you had to use, you shouldn't use. Like, for example, you can't use, like, we did a UT where we realized that using the sentence, you use starting your sentence with your payment failed actually built a lot of anxiety in our users. So instead of saying your payment failed, your payment was denied, we had to do an indirect approach where we would be like, your payment was not successful, or your
Mhm.
payment did not go through. So it was like, don't use the word denied, don't use the word fail, use a word like didn't go through, or use a word like unsuccessful, or use a word
Yeah.
like was not completed, based on where the user is, how the flow was. So all this analysis still going on again
Yeah.
were
It's
like
ongoing.
really a lot of eye openers to a lot of my team members, because they didn't realize that all these simple words, simple terms, simple sentence tweaking really made a lot of sense. So yeah, it was quite I mean, I walked into the room thinking, people would be aware of certain things as to
Mhm.
why they're not working, but it was a bit surprising to understand that they were, I mean, while they knew about it consciously, they at the moment, I mean, at that moment, or at that point where they were in, where they you had to ship in because the deadlines were so tight, or something else came where you had to really finish it, and there was not much time given to review the content, thinking that okay, we'll do it later, let us first finish the work. So there were all these instances where they really didn't pay a lot of attention to it, and in few instances they really did not think that this would cause a serious issue until it did. So
Mm.
yeah, right. So initially it was a lot of back and forth with the team, with my other stakeholders and all. I think now they've come to a point where they have that awareness. When they start writing, they'll come back to me and question, and they'll be like, I'm using this word, are you sure this word will work, right? If not this word, maybe I'll probably use it this way. I think this would be a better one than that. So now there's a lot of awareness about how content drives an experience, and how they
Mhm.
need to think about and consider certain words to make sure that after writing it, that it shouldn't be like there is some bad experience, or something has happened that resulted in escalation in customer support tickets, or some escalation that happened and you see significant drop offs or some other issues. So yeah, that was one of the things.
I think that this entire project, as it is ongoing and continuing to grow and continuing to improve as your users are at the same time, and as the product is at the same time, is a great tale of just alignment and taking that time to stop and focus and see, okay, communication is really what is key here. And we have to really focus on how we're communicating in order to continue the conversation. There are not many people who just want to talk to people who don't understand them, products included. I think that it's super cool that you're going through all these series of testing to understand what our users or what your users are comprehending and what that level is, and understanding, okay, these are the terms that they'll have to learn, and let's see how we can get them to understand these terms in a way. Additionally, having the error states, and error states can be tricky, but not really. The thing is, in my opinion, and as you had mentioned in your own way, not blaming the user directly. So understanding that yes, we do have an error here, we were unsuccessful, let's try this again, and then mentioning whatever the requirements are below just so that they're aware. I've had moments, especially trying to upload the logo onto the different platforms of the podcast. There are rules, it has to be a certain
Mm.
size, and I'll see one of the numbers and I'll click it, and then it's like, no, you can't use that one. And knowing it really is my fault because I didn't read everything, but it's not blaming me for not being aware of that prior to trying to add it to the file, right? It's just informing me, hey, this doesn't work, but these are the things that do work. And so it still gives you another option, kind of like a soft no, in a way. And I think that's very enlightening. And then to see the impact that it's had with yourself and your partners, and seeing that you guys are more content forward and everyone is thinking of how they're communicating with the users by down to the term, which is great because this way we're really focused on, okay, do they understand this? It may sound good, it may look nice, but do they understand it? Will they come back again? And I feel like this project is something that can truly determine that and elevate this product even further. So thank you for sharing that with us. As we come to a close, I do want to ask to continue this conversation with you with understanding what other methods or strategies that they may be able to try in their own product spaces to get a better understanding of their users' comprehension. How would they reach out to you?
Definitely, I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you can also reach out to me on the mail. I can share my mail ID for it. Yeah, those two would be perfect places to reach out.
Okay, perfect. I will have her information in the show notes for our audience. And thank you so much for visiting us and giving us so much insight on a way to truly understand your users and impact your product in a positive way at the same time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
That was Shwarya V. It's always interesting to see the different nuances of UX within different fields. Regardless of the field, finance, tech, or otherwise, understanding the user is an ongoing process. Some takeaways from our chat include understanding how crucial user communication is in fintech. Simpler words can significantly improve the user's experience. We've explored familiar language to build user trust and engagement, and examine revelations from user testing by discussing the strategies to clarify user vocabulary. If you'd like to continue this conversation with Ashwarya, I've placed her contact information in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like or subscribe on the platform of your choice. This episode was written by me, Janisa Norris, and editing and post production is done by Digital Sunflower. Until next time, turn your problems into opportunity.